Part 1. For years, humanity had been the youngest member of the Galactic Council. The Council was made up of many alien species, all older, richer, and more powerful than Earth. They controlled trade, peace, and laws across the stars. Humans had only been invited to join after proving they could travel faster than light and keep their planet from tearing itself apart. That was 50 years ago. Since then, Earth had tried to play by the rules. They sent diplomats, paid their dues, and stayed quiet when insulted. But quiet does not mean weak. Daniel Ruiz sat in the council chamber, his hands folded on the smooth black table. Around him, representatives from a dozen species shifted in their seats. Some floated, some clicked their mandibles. None looked at him. He was used to that. Humans were often ignored unless someone needed something from them. Usually minerals, labor, or a place to test new weapons far from their own worlds. Today felt different, though. The air was tense. The Krellians, tall reptilian beings with silver eyes, had filed a formal complaint. A Krellian freighter had strayed into Earth's outer mining zone near the asteroid belt. When challenged by a human patrol drone, the freighter fired first. The drone was destroyed. No humans died. But the Krellians claimed the drone had threatened their sovereignty and demanded punishment. Now the Council's High Arbiter, a slow-speaking being from the Zenthari Collective, was reading the verdict. After careful review, the Arbiter droned. The Council finds Earth's automated defense protocols to be overly aggressive and emotionally driven. As restitution, Earth must surrender all research and hardware related to quantum core technology to the Council Science Directorate within 7 solar cycles. Daniel's stomach dropped. Quantum core technology was not just another invention. It was humanity's greatest breakthrough. Developed in secret labs on the moon, it allowed near-instant energy transfer across vast distances. It powered faster ships, healed damaged tissue, and could even stabilize dying stars. Most importantly, humans had built it alone, without help, without copying, without stealing. And now the Council wanted to take it. He stood. With respect, he said, his voice calm but firm. This technology was developed entirely by human scientists. It belongs to Earth. We've shared data before. We're willing to share more. But handing over the core systems is not acceptable. A low murmur spread through the chamber. The Krellian delegate hissed. The Arbiter's many eyes blinked in unison. Your emotional response confirms the Council's concerns, it said. Humanity lacks the maturity to handle such power responsibly. The decision stands. Outside the chamber, Olivia Grant waited. She was Earth's science liaison, brilliant, sharp, and tired of being treated like a child. She saw the look on Daniel's face and knew before he spoke. They're taking it, he said quietly. They can't, Olivia replied. That tech feeds our colonies. It powers our hospitals. It's in our ships. Without it, we go dark. They don't care, Daniel said. To them, we're still the loud, messy newcomers who cry when things don't go our way. Back on Earth, the news spread fast. The Council's message was broadcast across every network, translated into every language. But it wasn't just the demand that angered people, it was the tone. Alien envoys appeared on screens, smirking as they called human governments chaotic, impulsive, and dangerously sentimental. One Krellian analyst even said, perhaps it is time Earth returned to its place, watching the stars, not shaping them. In a small workshop on Luna Base Theta, Marcus Bell turned off the feed. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but his hands were shaking. On the wall behind him hung a photo of his team, the people who had spent 10 years perfecting the quantum core stabilizer. They had missed birthdays, funerals, holidays. All for this. And now some distant council of aliens, who had never set foot on Earth or spoken to a human outside a meeting room, were going to take it away like it was nothing. He picked up his comm unit and typed a single message to every human outpost from Mars to Europa. They think we'll hand it over. Let's show them what happens when you push us too far. On Titan Colony 7, Noah Patel was calibrating a core prototype when the alert came through. He read the Council's decree and then looked at the humming device in front of him. A sphere of light held together by human math and human hope. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He simply recorded a short message. This isn't just tech, he said, his voice steady. It's proof that we can build something beautiful even in the dark. If they take it, they take our future. And I won't let that happen. His words were shared millions of times within the hour. In New Delhi, Lena Cruz, a veteran pilot with more flight hours than most alien admirals, shut down her simulator and called her squadron. "Gear up," she told them. "Not for war, not yet, but for readiness, because if they come for our tech, they'll find us waiting." Across Earth and its colonies, something changed. People stopped writing angry posts. They stopped begging for fairness. Instead, they checked their power grids. They tested their comms. They reviewed emergency protocols. Factories that once made solar panels began retooling for shield emitters. Universities opened secure channels to defense labs. Even children in schools practiced silent drills. How to seal a habitat, how to reroute oxygen, how to stay calm when the alarms sound. The council expected tears. They got silence. And silence in space is louder than any scream. Daniel and Olivia met in a secure room beneath Geneva. No windows. No recordings. Just two humans who had spent their lives trying to prove humanity belonged among the stars. "We can't fight them," Olivia said. "Their fleets outnumber ours 10-1. "We don't have to win a war," Daniel replied. "We just have to make it too costly for them to take what's ours." He opened a file on the table. It was labeled Contingency Theta. Inside were plans, ideas really, born from years of watching how the council operated. They relied on order, on predictability, on species doing what they were told. Humans had never been good at that. Maybe that was their advantage. Olivia smiled for the first time in days. "Let them think we're emotional. Let them think we're weak. While they're laughing, we'll be ready." Outside, the sun set over the Alps. On the moon, Marcus Bell powered up a hidden array of signal jammers. On Titan, Noah Patel locked the core lab and set the self-destruct sequence just in case. And in orbit, Lena Cruz ran a final systems check on her fighter, her fingers moving with quiet purpose. The Galactic Council had drawn a line. They thought humanity would step back. They were wrong. Part 2. The breaking point did not come from Earth. It came from Titan Colony 7, a small research outpost orbiting Saturn's largest moon. The colony housed fewer than 200 people, most of them scientists and engineers working on the final phase of quantum core stabilization. Among them was Noah Patel, a quiet man with tired eyes and steady hands. He had not slept in 36 hours, not because of the work, but because he knew what was coming. 2 days after the Council's ultimatum, 3 Krellian peacekeeper vessels arrived in orbit. They claimed they were there to secure the quantum core prototype for safekeeping, but their weapons were charged. Their comms were encrypted, and they refused to speak to Earth's Central Command. Instead, they sent a boarding party directly to the colony's main lab. Noah stood in the doorway as the armored Krellians entered. He raised his hands. "This is a civilian facility," he said. "There's no need for force." One of the aliens shoved him aside. Another fired a stun pulse into the chest of a young technician who tried to block access to the core chamber. The girl collapsed without a sound. Noah moved to help her, but a Krellian struck him across the face with the butt of its rifle. Blood filled his mouth. He tasted iron and fear. Then the shooting started. No one knew who fired first. Maybe a panicked guard, maybe a trigger-happy alien. But within seconds, the hallway was filled with smoke, screams, and flashing red lights. The colony's defense drones activated, but they were no match for military-grade plasma rifles. 12 humans died in the next 3 minutes. Noah was the last one standing near the core room. He backed into the chamber and sealed the door. His fingers flew over the console. He activated the emergency broadcast, open channel, no filters. The camera light blinked red. He took a breath. "They think we're children playing with fire," he said, his voice calm despite the blood on his lip. "Let's show them we've already lit the match." Then he triggered the lab's lockdown protocol. The core chamber flooded with containment foam, sealing the prototype inside a hardened shell. Outside, the Krellians began cutting through the door with plasma torches. Noah knew he had seconds. He didn't run. He stood in front of the core, arms wide as if shielding it with his body. The door burst open. Blaster fire filled the room. His final transmission cut off mid-sentence. But it didn't matter. The message was already spreading. Within minutes, every human network, Earth, Mars, the Belt, the outer colonies, was playing his words on loop. People watched in silence. Then they acted. On Earth, President Elena Ruiz, no relation to Daniel but just as fierce, called an emergency session of the Unified Earth Assembly. For the first time in decades, every nation voted the same way. The resolution passed unanimously. Earth would not surrender the quantum core technology. Not now, not ever. In Geneva, Daniel stood before the empty council chamber. He had returned one last time not to plead but to speak. Olivia stood beside him, her face pale but determined. The alien delegates watched, some curious, most bored. They expected tears, or threats. What they got was clarity. Humanity doesn't beg for a seat at your table, Daniel said, his voice carrying through the vast room. We'll build our own, and burn yours to the ground if you try to take it. He turned and walked out. Olivia followed. Behind them, the Krellian delegate laughed. Others murmured about hysterical primates. But one Zenthari observer remained silent. It had seen something in Daniel's eyes it had not seen in centuries, not rage but resolve. Back on Earth, cities did not riot. There were no fires, no looting. Instead, people gathered in community centers, schools, and shipyards. Engineers shared schematics. Pilots ran drills. Farmers rerouted food supplies to military depots. Even children helped, packing med kits, memorizing emergency codes, learning how to seal airlocks. Marcus Bell, still on Luna Base Theta, received a priority message from UEDC, United Earth Defense Command. It was simple. Activate Phase 1. He didn't hesitate. He opened a hidden vault beneath the base and began assembling the first batch of pulse disruptors, devices designed to overload alien shield harmonics. They were small, crude, and untested, but they were human-made, and that was enough. Lena Cruz stood on the flight deck of the orbital carrier, Aurora. Around her, pilots suited up in silence. No one shouted. No one boasted. They checked each other's seals, shared water, and nodded. Lena climbed into her fighter, Stardust, and ran a systems check. Her hands were steady. Her mind was clear. She thought of Noah Patel, not as a victim, but as a spark. Across the solar system, humanity stopped waiting. They began moving. Factories on Mars shifted from building terraforming units to manufacturing drone swarms. On Ceres, asteroid miners retrofitted cargo haulers with armor plating and targeting arrays. In the Jovian shipyards, engineers welded human-designed weapons onto old freighters, turning them into makeshift warships. None of it was elegant. None of it matched the sleek fleets of the Council. But it was fast. It was smart. And it was theirs. The Council dismissed the activity as panic-driven theater. They sent a second ultimatum: surrender the technology within 3 days or face corrective enforcement. They assumed Earth would fold. They were wrong. Instead, Earth went dark. All civilian broadcasts ceased. Navigation beacons switched to military encryption. Trade routes shut down. To the outside galaxy, the Sol system looked abandoned. But beneath the silence, humanity was preparing. Daniel and Olivia coordinated from a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. They weren't generals. They weren't soldiers. But they knew how to talk to people. They sent coded messages to species the Council had long ignored. The Vexari, who had been taxed into poverty. The Marathi, whose homeworld had been strip-mined for Council war efforts. The Orlan Collective, who valued knowledge over conquest. Humanity had helped them before, sending aid during famines, sharing medical tech, offering safe harbor to refugees. Now they asked for nothing. Just silence. Just time, and the fringe species gave it. While the Council searched for signs of rebellion, human scouts slipped through neutral space, mapping patrol routes, identifying weak points, and planting listening devices on abandoned relay stations. Lena Cruz led one such mission near the Kuiper Belt. Her squadron disabled a Krellian scout without firing a shot, just by jamming its comms and luring it into a debris field. They left the ship drifting, its crew alive but stranded. A message, not a massacre. Back on Titan, the Krellians still held the colony, but they could not access the core. It remained sealed inside its foam shell, guarded by automated turrets Noah had programmed before he died. Every attempt to breach it triggered a warning pulse sent directly to Earth. The Council grew frustrated. They demanded action, but their own rules prevented full-scale invasion, yet humanity used that delay like a weapon. Marcus finished the first 10 pulse disruptors and shipped them to Mars. Lena's pilots tested them against captured alien drones. The results were better than expected. The disruptors didn't destroy shields. They made them flicker just long enough for a well-placed shot to get through. It wasn't a miracle, But it was a chance. On Earth, children practiced blackout drills. Families stored water. Hospitals ran on backup generators. No one panicked. They had seen what happened when they asked nicely. Now they knew the truth. Respect is not given. It is taken, and humanity was ready to take it back. The galaxy watched, waiting for the explosion. They did not realize it had already begun. Part 3. Humanity did not attack with massive fleets or grand declarations. They struck like shadows, fast, quiet, and precise. The first blow came near the Proxima Relay, a key Council supply hub halfway to Alpha Centauri. 3 human freighters, painted with false registry codes and flying under neutral flags, drifted into docking range. They looked harmless. They were not. Inside each ship, pulse disruptors hummed to life. Pilots in hidden cockpits waited. When the Krellian dockmaster gave clearance, the freighters unleashed their cargo. Not weapons, but swarms of micro-drones coated in signal-scrambling foam. The drones latched onto shield emitters, power conduits, and comms arrays. Then the disruptors fired. For exactly 12 seconds, the relay station's defenses flickered and died. In that window, 6 human fighters, led by Lena Cruz, shot out from behind a nearby asteroid. They targeted only the station's weapon mounts and fuel depots. No lives were taken. But the relay was crippled. Supplies meant for the Council's outer fleet sat stranded in dead space. The message was clear. Humanity could reach beyond its borders. And they would not play by old rules. Across the next few weeks, similar strikes happened all along the Council's supply lines. A mining outpost near Vega lost its shield grid to a malfunction that matched human engineering. A data hub in the Sirius sector went dark after a routine maintenance bot uploaded a virus that erased all logs linking Earth to recent activity. The Council scrambled to respond, but their forces were spread thin, used to fighting wars of scale, not sabotage. Meanwhile, on Ganymede, Marcus Bell worked day and night inside a buried lab. Around him, engineers welded, coded, and tested. They called their project Icarus, not because they hoped to fly too close to the sun, but because they knew falling was always a risk. The idea was simple. Build drones that could enter an enemy ship, learn its systems, and take it apart from the inside. Not with bombs, but with patience. Each Icarus drone was no bigger than a human hand. Made of self-replicating nanites, they could rebuild themselves using scrap metal. Programmed with adaptive learning algorithms, they studied shield frequencies, power flows, and crew routines. Once inside a vessel, they waited, sometimes for days, until the perfect moment to disable life support, jam weapons, or lock doors during battle. The first test was on a captured Krellian scout ship. Marcus released a single drone through a maintenance vent. Within 6 hours, the ship's reactor shut down. Its comms went silent, and its crew found themselves locked in their quarters with oxygen running low. No one was hurt, but the ship was useless. "It works," Marcus whispered, watching the feed from the control room. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his voice held something new. Pride. Back on Earth, Daniel and Olivia coordinated the growing network of allies. The Vixari sent encrypted star charts showing hidden routes through Council-patrolled space. The Marathi shared data on Krellian fleet rotations. Even the Orlan Collective, long silent, opened a single channel. We watch. We remember. We stand aside. It was not open support, but it was enough. Lena's squadrons grew bolder. They hit relay stations, sensor outposts, and fuel depots, but never colonies, never civilian ships. They left warning buoys behind each strike, a simple symbol, a human handprint, and the words, "This is ours." The Council called it terrorism. The fringe species called it justice. On Mars, factories churned out more disruptors. On Ceres, asteroid miners built drone launchers into hollowed-out rocks. In Earth orbit, the carrier Aurora received its first full load of Icarus units. Lena walked the hangar deck, running a hand along the smooth hull of Stardust. She thought of Noah Patel. She thought of the girl on Titan who never got to finish her shift. She thought of every human told to be quiet, to wait, to accept less. Not anymore. The Council finally realized they were losing control. Their fleets hesitated before entering human-influenced space. Their supply lines grew unreliable. Their allies questioned their strength. For the first time, fear crept into their strategy meetings. They had assumed humanity would break under pressure. Instead, humans had turned pressure into power. Then came the Helios Rift incident. A council patrol of 5 warships entered the rift, a dense nebula known for signal interference, chasing rumors of a human weapons cache. What they found was silence. No ships, no signals, just swirling gas and static. Then without warning, their shields failed. Not all at once, but one by one, like lights going out in a storm. Icarus drones had been waiting inside the nebula for weeks, powered down, hidden in debris. When the patrol entered, they activated. Within minutes, 3 of the 5 ships lost engine control. The other 2 tried to flee, but Lena's fighters emerged from the gas clouds like ghosts. They disabled weapons, not hulls. They jammed comms, not lives. The patrol surrendered. When the news reached the council chamber, the Krellian delegate demanded immediate retaliation. But the Zenthari arbiter remained silent. Others whispered. The unity that had held the council together for centuries was cracking. On Earth, people did not celebrate. They prepared. They knew the council would not accept defeat lightly. The next move would be bigger, worse. But humanity was no longer reacting. They were ready. Marcus sent the final Icarus batch to the front lines. Lena trained new pilots in silent strike tactics. Daniel and Olivia finalized the Helios trap, a plan to lure the Council's Grand Armada into a place where their size would become their weakness. The galaxy had seen human anger. Now they would see human strategy, and it would change everything. Part 4. The Council made its biggest mistake when it decided to end the conflict in one blow. They called it the Grand Armada, a force of over 300 warships drawn from every major species in the Alliance. Krellian dreadnoughts, Zenthari cruisers, Mixian carriers, all flying under a single banner. Their mission was simple: crush Earth's outer defenses, seize all quantum core facilities, and install a council governor on Earth itself. They would not ask again. They would take. What they did not know was that humanity wanted them to come. For weeks, human forces had been sending false signals, distress calls from fake colonies, power surges from empty bases, encrypted messages about secret weapons hidden in the Helios Rift. The rift was a narrow corridor of ion-rich gas between 2 dying stars. Navigation was hard, comms were unreliable, perfect for an ambush. Lena Cruz led the bait. Her squadron flew near the rift's edge, just close enough to be spotted by patrol drones. They fired a few shots at a dummy satellite, then fled into the nebula. The Council took the hook. Within days, the Grand Armada changed course. They entered the rift in perfect formation, shields up, weapons charged, confident in their numbers. But numbers mean little when you cannot see your enemy. Inside the rift, Marcus Bell waited aboard a hidden command station built into a hollowed asteroid. Around him, screens showed the Armada's slow advance. He gave a single order: activate Icarus. From thousands of hiding places, old wreckage, ice chunks, abandoned probes, nanite swarms woke up. They drifted silently toward the fleet, invisible in the charged gas. The Council's sensors saw nothing unusual, just static, just noise. Then the shields began to flicker, not all at once. Just a few ships at first. A Krellian destroyer lost power to its port thrusters. A Zenthari cruiser reported strange vibrations in its reactor core. Crews scrambled to fix the problems, unaware that tiny machines were already inside their walls, chewing through wires, clogging vents, rewriting code. Lena's fighters struck next. They came not in waves, but in pairs, darting out of the gas, firing pulse disruptors at shield emitters, then vanishing before return fire could lock on. Each shot lasted less than a second. Each created a gap. And through those gaps, more Icarus drones poured in. The Armada tried to regroup. But in the tight space of the rift, their size became a curse. Ships bumped into each other. Friendly fire lit up the dark. Orders got lost in the static. Panic spread faster than plasma bolts. On the command deck of the lead dreadnought, the Krellian admiral roared for a retreat. But it was too late. Marcus triggered the final phase. Every Icarus unit synced to a single frequency and overloaded the power cores of every ship they had infiltrated. Not enough to explode, but enough to shut them down completely. Lights died. Engines stalled. Life support failed in sections. Within 6 hours, 200 of the Armada's ships were dead in space, drifting, dark, helpless. Lena's pilots moved in not to destroy, but to secure. They locked down escape pods, jammed distress signals, and broadcast a single message across all channels: surrender or suffocate. Most chose to surrender. Back on Earth, people watched the battle unfold through delayed feeds. There were no cheers, no songs, just silence. Then slowly lights began to turn on in homes, in labs, in shipyards, not because the war was over, but because they finally believed they could win. Daniel and Olivia stood in the Geneva bunker staring at the final count. Over 200 enemy ships disabled. Less than 50 human fighters lost. No civilian casualties. It was not total victory, but it was enough. The Council would not recover quickly. Their unity was broken. Their pride was shattered. And now the fringe species were watching closely. The Vexari sent a formal message. We offer safe harbor to any who wish to leave the Council. The Marathi opened their ports to human ships. Even the Orlan Collective transmitted a single line. Knowledge should not be owned. It should be shared. On Titan, the Krellian peacekeepers finally abandoned the colony. They left behind broken tools, empty ration packs, and the sealed core chamber. Engineers from Earth arrived within hours. They found Noah Patel's body still near the console. They buried him under Titan's orange sky with a simple stone and his own words carved into it. Marcus returned to Luna Base Theta, exhausted but alive. He walked into his workshop and found a note taped to his door. It read, "You lit the match. Now help us build the fire." He smiled for the first time in months. Lena stood on the deck of the Aurora, looking out at the captured ships floating in formation. They were no longer enemies. They were proof that humanity was not to be ignored, not to be pushed, not to be erased. The galaxy had expected a tantrum. They got a reckoning, and humanity was just getting started. Part 5. After the battle at the Helios Rift, the Galactic Council did not send another fleet. They sent diplomats. Their ships arrived with lights dimmed and weapons powered down, a sign of peace no one had seen in centuries. The Krellians came without armor. The Zenthari Arbiter came alone. They asked for a meeting, not in their grand chamber among the stars, but on Earth itself, in Geneva, in the same room where Daniel Ruiz had once been ignored. Daniel and Olivia walked in together. They wore simple clothes, no uniforms, no medals, just humans standing tall. The council delegates sat quietly. No one smirked. No one interrupted. When Daniel spoke, they listened. He did not gloat. He did not threaten. He laid out 3 demands. First, full reparations for Titan Colony 7, funds to rebuild, memorials for the dead, and a formal apology broadcast across every council world. Second, complete sovereignty over all human-developed technology, including the quantum core systems, with no future claims or inspections. Third, a permanent seat on the council with equal voting rights and veto power on any matter involving human space or safety. The Krellian delegate opened his mouth to object. The Arbiter raised a hand. "We will accept," it said. The room was silent. Olivia almost laughed. After years of being told they were too emotional, too chaotic, too young, the council had folded in one meeting. But she knew why. It wasn't fear of more battles. It was fear of what came after. If humanity could break their grand armada with cleverness and courage, what else could they do? The council needed stability. And right now, humanity was the only force that could give it or take it away. The treaty was signed within the week. Earth's colonies celebrated, but quietly. They had learned that peace is not given, it is held. And holding it takes work. Marcus Bell left Luna Base Theta for good. He moved to a quiet research island off the coast of Chile. There, with funding from every major Earth nation, he opened the Patel Institute for Peaceful Quantum Applications. The first project? Using quantum core resonance to purify ocean water. The second? Healing damaged coral reefs. He kept a photo of Noah on his desk. Every morning he said the same thing. Let's build something worth protecting. Lena Cruz did not retire. She became commander of the Sol Defense Fleet, a new force made not just of human ships but of joint patrols with the Vexari, the Marathi, and even a few former council observers who had chosen to stay. Her first mission was not war but rescue. A Marathi freighter had broken down near Neptune. Her team fixed its engine, shared food, and flew home without firing a single shot. That, she told her pilots, was the new victory. On Titan, the memorial for Noah Patel was finished. It stood on a ridge overlooking the methane lakes made of black stone and solar glass. The inscription read, "He reminded us we were worth fighting for." Visitors came from every human world. Some left flowers. Some left tools. Some just stood and remembered. Back on Earth, life returned to something like normal. Children went to school. Farmers planted crops. Artists painted. But things had changed. People looked up at the stars not with hope alone, but with pride. They knew now that they belonged, not because someone allowed it, but because they had earned it. Daniel and Olivia stayed in Geneva, not as diplomats, but as advisors. They helped write new laws for space travel, resource sharing, and conflict resolution. Laws that valued fairness over force. They met often with the fringe species, building something the galaxy had never seen. A network based on trust, not control. The old council still existed, but it was weaker. Some species left, others reformed. A new council began to form, one that included humans not as the youngest member but as an equal voice. Meetings were messier now, louder, full of debate, but also full of ideas. Years passed. Ships with human markings flew freely through once forbidden space. Human doctors treated alien patients. Human teachers shared history with young Vexari students. And when a distant colony, human or not, called for help, someone always came. The galaxy learned something important. Humanity was not gentle because they were weak. They were gentle because they chose to be, and when pushed too far they did not break. They exploded, not in rage but in brilliance and unity and unstoppable will. No one underestimated them again. On a clear night in New Delhi, Lena stood on her balcony and watched the stars. Her daughter slept inside, dreaming of flying among them. Lena smiled. She remembered the silence before the storm, the quiet fury that had built in every human heart when the line was crossed. They had not wanted war, but they had refused to be erased, and in the end that refusal had not destroyed them, it had made them legend.